Recently I've been really concerned about the role that the Wei1 group plays in cyber scam operations. Ms. Cohen, I know that Chainalysis played a very sizable role in exposing the group's illicit activity. So can you break down what exactly your research found?
Thank you for the question. So we've been tracking Wei1 for a long time, and since 2021, Wei1 has processed $70 billion worth of cryptocurrency. Wei1 Guarantee operates as a peer-to-peer marketplace, allowing vendors and buyers to connect. It receives a profit, a fee from those transactions, and these vendors are nakedly selling scam material, social media accounts, money mule services, and Wei1 also offers an exchange capacity. And it is the one-stop shop for scammers, giving them everything they need to conduct scams at scale for cheap.
Those that are critics of blockchain often paint it as a technology existing primarily to launder money or for other illicit activities. However, they fail to realize that the transparency that comes with a digital ledger can make it easier to identify and shut down bad actors. So, Ms. Cohen, how did you leverage blockchain technology in your investigation in Huawei Group?
So the blockchain reveals a very detailed story about Wei1, way more granularity than we would ever have from traditional financial institution investigations. And it paints a very vivid picture of its illicit exposure. We see many of our scams are using Wei1 as a common denominator, the common place to launder, cash out funds, but also reinvest the proceeds of scams for additional materials used to target additional victims. And it provides a very powerful tool for financial institutions that leverage our platform for transaction monitoring, as well as investigative law enforcement to understand its inner workings.
So as we try to shut down organizations like the Wei1 Group, do you think sanctions are an effective tool?
Sanctions are certainly a powerful tool, one tool in the toolbox. I think more clarity would enable financial institutions and cryptocurrency businesses that leverage our data to understand if and when they have exposure, whether they have customers sending to or receiving funds from Wei1. It essentially cuts Wei1 off from the mainstream crypto ecosystem.
Could you give us an example of how this was actually used and it was sanction was being effective?
Sanctions have been most effective when coordinated with law enforcement, that 1-2 punch of not only designations, but also takedowns. Just last month, Garantex, which is a sanctioned Russian service, persisted despite sanctions. Certainly, any cryptocurrency business with receiving from or to Garantex has the ability to block those transactions effectively. Mm-hmm. And what we're now examining is, because Garantex has been blacklisted, it's potentially rebranded. But it allows us to follow the money trail to identify that next iteration. Even when they're in jurisdictions that are not compliant with Western law enforcement, we can still impose cost, we can inject friction.
Thank you. I want to shift gears now and focus on the burden that suspicious activity reports have become on community financial institutions. So, Mr. McLaughlin, I want to ask you the questions. For community banks that have smaller regulatory teams, how much harder is it to complete the SARS with the level of details that is required?
Thank you for your question. So the burden on a smaller financial institution versus a larger institution is greater. At a larger financial institution, there's an investment in automation and other ways to make the investigative process and the SAR filing or CTR filing process more automated and faster. At the community bank or smaller financial institution level, the burden is on the person. The person has to basically write the who, what, where, when, how, and why the activity took place, and in great enough detail so that we're turning over SARS to the law enforcement that is considered actionable intelligence. We do not like getting feedback that we need to amend SARs or things like that to provide more data. So we look to provide as much data up front so that law enforcement can take it. But it is a very burdensome process because at that level of institution, there's not a lot of automation that takes place.
Right. Well, thank you very much.